I've really been looking forward to this conversation with you two. I'm Melissa. This is my sign name.
I'm excited too, but I'm a little nervous. I don't know why.
Don't be nervous. We're just chatting.
I'm Ernie.
Ernie. You can ask any question, but I can't guarantee we have an answer. Fair enough. You're Mencie? That's right. It's nice to meet you two. It's nice to meet you too. I've heard that you have a special story, which is why you're sitting here today on campus at Gallaudet. This is also the same campus where you two met years and years ago. Is that right? That's right, 45 years ago. Wow, you've been married for 43 years? It will be 43 in October. Wow. Take me back to the day that you two first met. What was it like? Do you want to say?
All right, we'll start with me. I was invited by Raymond Rodriguez. He was a professor at Gallaudet at the time. He invited me to speak to his class, and Mencie happened to be one of the students. That day, I clearly remember her walking into the classroom. She was late. She sat down in the middle of the room, crossed her legs, and said, "Hi." I was surprised she recognized me in the audience. Then it was time for the Q&A. She raised her hands and asked, "Do you work for Caption Films for the Deaf?" I responded, "Yes," and she came back with, "Why is it for the deaf and not of the deaf?" I was taken back and said, "That's the way it is. Captioned films for the deaf." After class was over, she came up to me and handed me her card. I looked at it and it said, "Executive Director of the Philippines Association for the Deaf." I asked her why it said, "For the Deaf." It should say, "Of the Deaf." She shrugged and said, "Americans should lead. We will follow." I said, "Okay." And that was our first encounter.
We exchanged cards.
Yes, exchanged cards.
And you obviously were ahead because, yes, that debate of for versus of the deaf has been changing. It was a new sensibility of deaf people being able to rise up independently. So when I arrived, that was very, very obvious, and I immediately grabbed onto that. Yes, it should be of, not for. Exactly.
Then there was another time where I went to a lecture at Gallaudet. Mencie happened to be interpreting at the time, and I walked in and sat down. As soon as she noticed me, she stopped interpreting and waved at me.
There was a little something there, huh? He was with another woman. Oh, I see.
I was surprised she recognized me, and it made me feel nice that time.
Obviously, there was something there that you noticed already. And he obviously is not with that woman anymore. He's with you now.
That led to, after she gave me her card, I thought, why not introduce her to the deaf community in Washington, D.C.? So I took her with me to NAD.
Yes.
We went on a date at the time, and then I took her to the Black Deaf Club. We went to many different things, and then one thing led to another.
Mencie, tell me your side. I enjoyed it because I had the opportunity to really socialize with the deaf people in the community, you know? A hearing person coming from a different country. I don't get that much opportunity to do that. So I really appreciate his effort to bring me out and introduce me to the people to allow me to network. I needed that, so I really appreciated that. I think he really likes showing me off a bit. This is my beautiful lady by my side. Yes. I want to know more about what led you to come to Gallaudet. Let's start with Mencie. You're from the Philippines and you're hearing. What led you here to Gallaudet? Okay, so I was working with the Philippines Association for the Deaf, PAD. That's a group established by deaf people. PAD earned money from its business, a restaurant. It was a catering business, and they earned money. PAD wanted to set up a school. I first worked there as a bookkeeper. So I worked and I studied at the same time. I was working full time and then I studied at night when PAD wanted to establish a school. They said, Mencie, go and learn, major in education. I did that in the University of the Philippines. They said that I should go to Gallaudet to learn more so they can help establish a school. So I did. PAD financially sponsored my coming here, and that's what I did. Then when I arrived, a lot of people on campus opened doors for me, introduced me to others, people like me. They brought me into the city. On campus, several people really opened doors. One person who really made an impact on me. Sometimes my money from the Philippines would arrive late, and I needed books and supplies. I went to Dr. Phillips. Dan Phillips, I think that was his name sign. Somehow, he would find private, unallocated funds that he gave me so I could buy my books and supplies. That was so kind of him to support you. It was a lot. Of course, my classmates and deaf friends would invite me to their homes during holidays and during breaks. This gave me the opportunity to observe an American way of life and family dynamics within the deaf family. I was so lucky, very, very lucky. Yes, you had the perfect environment here at Gallaudet to really welcome you into the deaf community. And that made it possible for you to give back to the community in many ways. Not just in the Philippines, but here in the U.S. You were welcomed and embraced. Thank you. I think that's beautiful. And you met the love of your life.
Well, at the time, I was separated, going through a divorce. So I had several close female friends. And so I never imagined having a real girlfriend or someone to be in a relationship with. That's why she caught me off guard.
Aw.
One thing that struck me was that she was at Gallaudet for 1 year, and she said, I'm going back to the Philippines. You have 1 year to get this out of your system. I said, that's fine. Go to the Philippines. Then I thought, I have a chance to start my dating journey again. She gave me a year to go to the Philippines, and I thought that was fine. I decided to go to the Philippines. I made plans and told her I was visiting. So in October, after 1 year, I flew out to the Philippines to visit.
He came with a ring. Wow.
Just in case, because she had 4 brothers. I have to go and visit her brothers. If something happens, I need to have a ring ready just in case.
He came with a ring.
You have such an ego thinking I came to marry you.
Well, she's right.
I came to visit the Philippines.
Obviously, clearly.
After a while, I ended up being married in the Philippines. Then she said to me, now that we're married, you can go back to America. You have 1 year to get this out of your system. At that 1 year mark, I came back. We got married.
What a beautiful story. Best decision of your life, right? We're here, 43 years later.
I'm stuck.
Happily stuck. I'm stuck too. I want to know more about you. Where did you come from before coming to Gallaudet?
I grew up in Stokesbury, West Virginia. It's a coal mining town. My father worked in the coal mines. At that time, I never thought of going to Gallaudet.
You knew about Gallaudet?
Yes, at the West Virginia school, the first schools were segregated. In 1954, the school integrated, and at that time, I was in 9th grade at the black school. After integration, the schools for white deaf schools only went up to 9th grade. There weren't 10, 11, and 12th grades. I took several tests and scored high, so my advisor, Dr. Norwood, said, "You've graduated. What will you do?" I said, "I'll be a barber." Dr. Norwood said, "A barber? Hell no. You're going to Gallaudet." I wanted to be a barber because at the time in West Virginia, I didn't know any black students who had gone to Gallaudet. They became barbers, tailors, and shoe repairers. I noticed that those who were black that had graduated and worked as barbers had nice cars, nice clothes, and so I thought, barbers can have nice cars and clothes. Dr. Norwood said, "You become a barber? Hell no. You're going to Gallaudet."
So you went to Gallaudet. What was it like coming in? How did you feel like you fit here?
My Gallaudet experience was very rich.
How was it rich? Tell me more about your Gallaudet experience.
I was involved in sports and
Which sports were you involved in?
football, and my favorite, wrestling.
Wrestling. How neat.
I wrestled during the 1961 Deaf Olympics. I was part of the wrestling team that went to Helsinki.
It's okay to brag.
I got a bronze medal in wrestling, so that.
You were involved in sports. What else were you involved with at Gallaudet?
The Literacy Society, Drama Club.
Dance?
I danced.
Dance.
Yes, under Dr. Wisher. Dr. Wisher had a dance group that went different places to perform, so I danced. One of my favorites was my solo. Dr. Wisher called it improvism. I just followed the music and danced around and did all kinds of things. It was my show-off dance.
You two stayed at Gallaudet for school. You were involved with the interpreting program for graduate school. Now you're a proud alumni of Gallaudet. What would you say Gallaudet did for you that made you very involved with your communities today? I know you two are still very involved. You're still involved in many things within the community, right?
Yes.
This started at Gallaudet and lasted until now. Why do you have that within you? Remember, I'm a hearing woman and I come from a developing country, the Philippines. So when I came to Gallaudet, it was really an eye-opening and life-changing experience to see the things I saw. I saw how deaf people were so proud of their culture. At the same time, I think it was also the beginning of deaf power. I saw that and watched that made me feel the same way. My pride in my own country and my own culture. I felt I should have the same level of pride too. Gallaudet made me see the possibility as a teacher. Possibility for me to do this. Possibility for my students to do other things. That's the only thing I really took away. Wow, that's beautiful. What about you?
When I graduated from Gallaudet and went into different jobs, North Carolina and other places, here in Washington, D.C., I did federal work. I was involved with Gallaudet mostly through Drama Club, Hugh Memorial Theater. I was a part of that, so rehearsals and acting were all at Gallaudet. So even though I had graduated, I still was involved with things at the Hugh Theater. I always felt I was still a part of Gallaudet. I lived nearby in Maryland.
You felt close and cherished it.
I feel like I never left Gallaudet. I just wasn't a student anymore.
No homework and tests.
Right, but when Tom Mays set up a continuing education program, I was still involved with Gallaudet. I went to the continuing education program at Gallaudet, so I just kept coming around. I never let go of Gallaudet.
My experience, because I was working as a student while I was in the Philippines, I never experienced campus life. When I came to study, it was really an immersion into Gallaudet, the deaf life, and the hearing life. I really appreciated it. It was the first time I could experience living in a dorm. Oh yes. Having a roommate, sharing a bathroom, going to the cafeteria for meals. It was the first time in my life I had the campus life experience. I really enjoyed that, and it was a different perspective for me. You mentioned your big passion was being involved with the Black deaf students at Gallaudet back then. Today, you're still very involved with the Black deaf advocacy in DC, right?
As a student, I was not so much involved in the Black deaf community as opposed to the general Gallaudet community. However, after I graduated from Gallaudet, I became more involved with the Black deaf community. My involvement with the Black deaf community is separate from my involvement in Gallaudet. They're two different communities. When I married her, I became involved with the Filipino community.
Wow, that's rich.
Then I became involved with the Kennedy Center as a DASL Director of Artistic Sign Language. That was a different group of people I became involved with. I have a variety of involvements. Now I'm older, and I have 8 grandchildren.
Aw, 8, wow.
Retirement is not a retirement.
That's fabulous. From that short time we've been talking, there has been a great variety of involvements you have with different cultures. You're involved with the Black deaf community, you in the Filipino community, arts, your children, theater, literacy, interpreting. I feel astounded. With all those things, how did you have time for anything? It's admirable. I want to ask, do you think being at Gallaudet gave you that core foundation to be able to be involved with all the things and have that internal desires to connect with the communities? Does it come from your time at Gallaudet? I feel that Gallaudet gave me the toolbox so that I was able to do all those things. It gave me a toolbox to establish and run a school for deaf kids in the Philippines, the PAD school. It gave me the toolbox to network and collaborate with people outside of the deaf community, because you cannot have or run a program for deaf kids while solely depending on deaf people. You need to involve the community, families, and other people. Gallaudet gave me that toolbox, and that is my biggest takeaway. Since Gallaudet gave me the toolbox, it's now my responsibility to give it back in return, to give back to Gallaudet and to the different communities that I'm a part of. Yes, I love that. That's the true spirit of a Gallaudet alumni, to give what you get back to the Gallaudet community. It's how life should be. You get it, then you give, right? You get, and then you give it away. Yes. What about you?
Gallaudet has several scholarships that they give out. And our reason for giving endowments to graduate students is because most deaf undergraduates that go to Gallaudet are already supported through state BR programs. But with graduate students, they don't get BR support. Therefore, our scholarship money is given to graduate students who generally don't get BR or state support. That's one of the reasons.
That's admirable. That was also a nod to my experience when Dr. Phillips would look for money to help me. To help you write. I was a graduate student, a foreigner. And so I remember that act of kindness. And I want to do that for someone else. That's why we decided to start the endowment for graduate students. It's there. You two have a beautiful story, and you are very blessed in your journey from your time at Gallaudet to now. You say you're still connected with Gallaudet and have never really left.
That's right.
I wonder, what's the biggest thing you've noticed change from back then until now at Gallaudet? The students are different. Yeah. I noticed that there is a more diversity today. I remember during my time, I came in 75. I think I was the only Asian in my class. Wow. There were very few Asians undergraduate students on campus. There were several Black people, but not as many as there are now. I think now Gallaudet has become really diverse, and it's really wonderful, I think. I agree. Do you agree?
I agree, but I also have a different perspective. The president of Gallaudet is now more involved with the student body and more involved with the administration of Gallaudet. During my time before, the president was very removed and seemed aloof. It started with I. King Jordan. He opened his house to interact with us. Then Davila was very open. The presidents of Gallaudet are now more involved with the community itself and more involved with the students.
I agree. It makes a big difference.
It's much different. In my time, Dr. Elstad was very untouchable. It's a little different. Merrill, I think, started it. He opened it a little bit, but then Davila, no, I. King Jordan, then Davila truly opened things up for the community.
They interacted. I think Bobby Cardano is truly doing a fantastic job. A fantastic job opening up to more diversity. I first met her in Baltimore at the
MBDA.
At the NBDA conference. She was a new president at that time. But even at the time, I could really feel that's where her heart was. I think you're right. The presidents, the leaders, yes. Not just the presidents, but the leadership really makes a difference. You lead better when you are actually involved in interacting with the community. You know them better, instead of just being a face for them. That's what you just described the previous Gallaudet presidents as. I'm curious, with your rich experience at Gallaudet as students and as alumni, what's one word of advice you would give to new students entering Gallaudet? What would you encourage them to do?
Take advantage of the opportunity and be involved in as many activities as possible. as long as it doesn't interfere with your studies.
That's true. Can't interfere with your studies. Why do you think it's important to be involved with activities?
They're unique. After Gallaudet, you won't find as many opportunities to meet people, to be involved in various activities, especially in the Washington, D.C. area where Gallaudet is located. It's a rich experience being here and in the Washington, D.C. area.
Beautiful words of wisdom. What about you? I would say that Gallaudet is a smorgasbord. Yes, a whole variety of different choices. Someone who comes in will need to be prepared to make choices. And when you're finished with Gallaudet, you can go anywhere. Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. It truly made me feel more fond of Gallaudet after hearing your stories. It always feels like home for me. I feel the same way.
Yes.
Thanks. She didn't ask me about my Tabasco sauce.